Welcome to the Growers Mineral Podcast. This episode features audio from our most recent conference call. Each month, we host a live discussion on Zoom, bringing together farmers, agronomists, and industry experts to share insights on soil health, crop nutrition, and sustainable farming practices. For more information about Growers Mineral or to join our next call, visit growersmineral.com. And now, enjoy the discussion.
Okay, very good. Appreciate it, Russ. My name's Jim Hallbeisen, and I'll be leading the call this evening. What we have done in the past is talk a little bit about current events, and then bring on the calendar picture. And last month we reversed that, and it worked out very nicely. So I think we're going to maintain that same protocol. There's a couple of housekeeping things that I would like to bring up first before we get started. This will be the last call until the fall, and we have been starting up in September. We will basically put out the notice to let everybody know that the calls will start up again. And the other thing that we want to comment a little bit about is that we're trying to get guys, when they notice differences in the field, if there's some effect out there, get that phone out and take a picture of it and get it to us. We were looking at some pictures today where Matt Gooding didn't get the growers on some wheat, and boy, there was a dramatic difference. And this is something that a lot of people are very interested in. We can do that, put it in the calendar. We can put it in the solution. So just get those phones fired up and get those pictures in, because those are very, very helpful. And the calendar has turned into a very good reference tool for us. And those are the types of things that work very nicely. The other thing, in the last 4 or 5 days, maybe a week, we've been getting a tremendous number of calls about frost protection. And Russ and Osa have allowed us to start up a weekly podcast. And this is kind of an educational thing, trying to get exposure, get our name out there. And the first podcast that I did with Marty Whitsitt, and that's what we talked about, frost protection. And so Marty gave me a call this evening, and again, there has been a serious amount of frost activity going down southern Illinois, southern Indiana. Mike Bulcher's in Kentucky, we've seen it. Dennis Grove talked about getting some sweet corn frosted off in the Delmarva. So again, if you're on, I can't figure out off of my listing if you're there. If you are, I'd like you to hop on. I mentioned to Marty that I tried to get him on tonight. And his peach guy, Jim Seiler, they've had a little conversation already. And Jim was basically commenting to Marty that he's got a little bit of damage, but boy, in his main fruit crop, things are looking pretty good. And see, the interest in this was very high this year. I even had a strawberry guy that gave me a call and was talking about, can we help with that? And we have not. We probably have had success with strawberries, but nobody has really talked about it. Mike Bulcher has a very good vegetable customer that did it with other types of vegetables and had good success with it. So again, the frost protection thing has drawn a lot of attention. The hits on that particular podcast have been pretty impressive for us. So again, this is something that has drawn a tremendous amount of interest. So again, I don't hear you, Marty, if you're out there. So again, he might have got tied up. So basically, what I'm going to do then is go to the calendar picture, and I'm going to introduce Mike Bulcher. The picture, it belongs to Philip Neal. It's one of Phil's customers. A very good customer of Phil's. And so this is Mike's territory. And so I'm going to let Mike kind of jump on and talk a little bit about his territory. And uh, he's going to decide whether he's going to start with Phil or if he's going to start with Lenny. And we're going to talk a little bit about what he's seeing in his territory. And even with Mike, he's seeing a fair amount of interest in Kentucky. His dad had a very good business down in Kentucky, and Mike's starting to really tap into that a little bit. So, Mike, if you're out there, I'm going to let you start this thing off, and you're basically going to be in charge.
Oh boy, this ought to be short. Yeah, you was talking about my area, and I mean, I don't want to brag, but I got a little bit here in Ohio from the Columbus area to the state line west, and then on over into Indiana to Indianapolis down to the Kentucky state line from there. And same with Columbus down to the Kentucky state line. And then, of course, my dad worked in Kentucky, which I'm down there as well. And yeah, we've got some interest. The frost protection thing really helps. There's a lot of people they're aware of that, and it has got some attention thanks to the videos and stuff they put out about it. That's really helped. I think that and the tobacco too. There's a good tobacco video that they've done down there in the Carolinas by Terry Norris as well. And I know I've had several calls this last year of guys that seen that and had a lot of questions asked about how we use the program basically on what our protocol is, so to speak, with the tobacco. So I'm hoping here tonight that I asked my son to get on here. I know I want Phil to get on too. I don't know if Leonard's going to join in. I told him that was totally up to him. Phil's over here east of me. He's in the Miami County, and he's got a young fella. He's starting produce, which is really finding this very useful and doing a real good job over there. And I like him to talk about that, but everybody's been interested in this calf barn thing that my son has gotten into. And I asked him if he'd be willing to say a few things about it here tonight. So I think he is on. I think if he couldn't get on the Zoom thing because I guess you got to download an app. I wasn't aware of that. So I believe he called in, and he's going to need to *6 if he wants to get on there and say something. And my son's name's Chad, and he's a young man wanting to get into farming pretty bad. And he come to me here about a year ago in the spring. A neighbor had asked him if he'd like to get into the calf raising business, and he's been kind of interested in doing some kind of livestock to get into farming. He's currently working in a factory, and he's grew up helping me and my dad farm, and he's wanting to get in it. And this was a way that he's seen that if it all worked out, he could quit his factory job and go farming full time. So he's got quite a operation set up over there going, and it's been quite a learning curve for both of us, even though I grew up with cattle all my life. Yeah, raising baby calves on bottle feeding them is really a new experience. So, Chad, are you on there?
I think I am.
Yeah, you are. We got you, man.
I want Chad to say
Okay.
I want Chad to say a few things first, because he's got to go to bed because he gets up at 4:00 to feed these animals before he goes to work in the morning. And then when he gets done, I'll have Phil come on and talk. So if that works out.
Yep, that'll be great.
So I don't know if you got any questions for Chad or how you want to go about doing that.
Well, I kind of do, Mike. Chad, this is Jim Hallbison, and
Hi, Jim.
I'm getting feedback. What your dad was talking about. We've got guys that are trying to diversify their operations, and this cattle thing has just escalated to the moon. And, some guys have asked me directly about it. And, I just don't have any experience with it. And I told these guys, that one of our district managers had a son that was working with it. And I said to Mike, if you'd be willing to just jump on and, give us the down and dirty on this thing and how you were looking at it and, what's the learning curve on it, basically.
It's definitely been a learning curve. There's a real guide to raising bottle calves. I raised bottle calves once before when I was in high school, not to this level. I mean, when I was doing it before, I was raising like 5 to 7. I currently have 300 right now in my barn, but yeah, it's been something. These last 2, this is my second group that I'm on currently. I've gotten salmonella twice now with it, and it's a lot of late nights, a lot of giving shots, just to keep them around because, I mean, they're pretty expensive right now. I think Holsteins are going for about $1,025. Coloreds, I was told the other day from a guy that they're going almost $1,400. So, yeah, that's kind of nerve-wracking. You don't want to be losing very many. This group here, I haven't really lost a whole lot. So it's been working out, I guess, a lot better, this group here.
You should tell him what kind of calves you're raising out there, if you would.
Well, that first group I had mostly crosses, Shorthorn Angus mixed with Holstein. This group here, I got just about a little bit of everything. I got Jerseys, Holsteins, and Coloreds. And then I got bulls and heifers. I mean, it's all in one barn.
Yeah, he's got something that's kind of new that I wasn't aware they did. I guess I had heard a little bit about it, but they bought 30, this guy that he's raising them for has 30 Jersey Angus cross calves. And, the Angus Holstein, I've known that to be going on for a while, but I wasn't aware they was doing it like that in the Jerseys. And them little things are pretty hardy. For raising, I think they've been a lot easier than the rest, wouldn't you say, Chad?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the colors, they seem to catch on pretty quick to the milk bar. That I don't use bottle, I use a milk bar setup. The Holsteins, it just seems like it takes them, I mean, you're looking 2 or 3 days before they actually catch on to that milk bar. And then the Jerseys, I mean, I'd say the second feeding, they realized as soon as that milk bar went down that was food, just kind of like the colors. But I mean, the Jerseys, they just, I don't know, like Dad said, they just seem like they're more hardy or something. When I got salmonella the second time, which didn't affect me as bad because I kind of knew what was going on whenever I seen it and started treating pretty early. So it didn't get as bad as it did on that first group. But those Jerseys, I don't think I might have been treating 1 or 2. I mean, out of, I think I have 25 of them in there. And yeah, I told him, the guy that I'm raising for, if he wanted to put the whole barn as Jerseys, I'd be okay with
it. This barn's kind of unique. I think it's something that's kind of new they're doing with these bottle calves. And I mean, it's probably, just new in this area, but they're raising these calves in pens of 11 or 12. And that's what this milk bar is. It's basically a trough with nipples on it that, most of them's got like 13 nipples on it. So if you got 11 or 12 calves in a pen, then they can all get on a nipple. And the low stress part about this is from the day one that they show up until they go on the feedlot, these calves learn to compete for food every feeding. So they claim that if they raise them individually in these hutches or in the pens, that the calves got that food in front of them all the time and they don't have to search for it. Or this, they're always competing for the food. And, of course, they all are aware when you slap them things down over the gate, they all run up there and start nursing. So that's supposed to reduce the stress that's one thing that reduces the stress is that. And then by having them like 11 or 12 together, when he weans them, then they go into well, Chad, you explain that process. When they go into weaning them, how you do that?
Well, I mean, the weaning process really, you go from feeding them that milk bar to week 5, I'll still be on 2 feedings. And then by week 6, I'll go down to just a feeding a day. And then by week 7, I'll cut them off completely. And they do seem to, they kind of ease into the feed the whole time they're on the milk. And then when you go to cut them off, you get a little bit of them, some of them, crying around. Some of them, you kind of got to pull out and kind of feed them milk for a few more days yet, just because they're not ready like some of the other ones. But like Dad said, the benefit of doing this pen than having them in hutches is they got to learn to get up to get the water. They got to learn to get up to get the feed and the milk. And, like my waters are the exact same setup water as what he's got, same color and everything. So the calves kind of already have an idea that color indicates water, and then they're already used to the feed.
Well, I've got a question for you. What kind of dry feed are you giving them?
Yeah, it's not even cracked corn. It's whole corn with pellet. Mm-hmm. And then he's got, I'm not sure really what all kind of supplement he's got in that. It smells real sweet. It's not millasses, but it's just whole corn and pellet.
What about the milk itself?
I'm not really sure.
What about the milk itself? Are you putting, any kind of antibiotics or anything in there, for the calves?
Yeah, he should explain that process.
Just what, the milk?
Well,
the milk replacer is medicated.
I got you.
The milk replacer is medicated, but then I add, there's a number of things that I add to it. Meloxicillin, that's one of the things, the first 5 days that I'm putting in 1 tablet per calf, and I just dissolve that into the water. And then day was 6 through 10, there's something else that I put in. And this is my last week of medicating them. And then from here on out, they won't have any medication into the milk. And in the morning, I've actually been putting growers in every feeding. And I started doing that on week 3, so this past week. And I'll do that up until they get weaned. I'll just put about 2 cups of growers into the milk as I'm mixing it.
200 gallon. Yeah, 200 gallon of total solution, and he's putting 2 cups of vinegar in there and 2 cups of growers. But what I wanted him to kind of explain too is that them calves are on a schedule when they show up there. He's got a schedule, and I want to say it's 1 to day 28, but I might be wrong there. Chad, you would know better. But in that schedule, it says everything you have to do like that day or that week to get them up to a certain point. There's so much in vaccinations, medications, all that type of thing.
Yeah, the first 5 days, I'm just giving them vaccination shots. And then day 10, there's a vaccination shot. And it's every week after that. They're getting some kind of a shot. And like I said about the milk, there's all that medication that I'm putting into it. I start them off on 2 quarts, and I do that for about 2 weeks, and then I start upping it. Once I get off, it seems like they're under a lot of stress that first week and a half. And then once I'm past that, I start bumping my milk up until I get to about 3 quarts at 3 weeks. So I bump it up pretty quickly.
One thing, Chad, I want to ask you, when we worked with a guy by the name of Steve Swerzak out in Nebraska, we went into one of those big feedlots, and they had those guys on horses in those pens all the time, and I asked Steve, who are those guys? He said they're called pen riders. They're always looking for the sick animals and trying to, get them cut out of there and get them in the sick pen. What what's been the challenge for you trying to pick out the sick animals and treating them? You know, your dad sent me a couple of those videos of you guys putting the ringers into them, you know, to try to rehydrate them. What's the biggest challenge, you know, trying to pick these sick animals out and keep them going?
I'd say what the hardest part about it is, you know, you get calves that are all different sizes. So trying to pull out little ones, because I want to put all my little ones together and I want to put all my big ones together. And that's a challenge with the amount that I have, trying to basically jockey calves around all the time. But I mean, the picture that my dad sent you of us giving that calf an IV, I mean, that's only really the first week. I mean, that's the worst part about raising baby calves is that first week. They get dehydrated, and once they get dehydrated, they go downhill so quickly.
Yeah.
And as far as, I guess, knowing which one's sick, I mean, that's still a hard part. You just got to watch, you know, once you get one backing off milk, you know something's wrong with them. Or if he's the first one to turn around when they're all nursing on that bar and he lays down, there's something wrong with that calf. You know, or whenever you first put that bar down and you got a calf still laying as the rest of them are all up there ready to nurse, you know, there's something wrong with that calf. As far as knowing what to treat them with, I mean, I'm still new to this. I still really don't know, exactly what to treat them with all the time. I have a pretty good idea, but with more experience, I think I'll get better with knowing exactly what to treat them.
So the question I've got for you now is, and you know, this is kind of a loaded question. Is this a project that you're really happy with, or have you bit off more than you can chew, or what's your whole take on it at this point?
It depends on when you ask me that question, honestly. Week one, I'd probably have a different answer than what I have right now. Right now,
gotcha.
I could. So I got 12 calves to a pen. I have enough square footage in each pen to go with 14. And I have a big enough mixing tank to go with 14 calves. But my milk bars, I got some that's got 18 nipples and some that's only got 13 nipples on it. So I'd have to get more milk bars. But I mean, you know, right now I'm on week 4. That's where I'm entering. And it's pretty easy, honestly. You got to watch some ear infections here and there and respiratory problems. But I mean, other than that, it's pretty easy. I don't regret doing it.
Tell them how long it takes.
Like I said, I almost think about doing more. You know, I can do about 350 if I put 14 in a pen.
Tell them how long it takes you to feed them.
Well, to just feed them is about 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. Now, if you've put in the mixing, I mean, depending on where I'm at right now, I think I'm at 220 gallons, and it takes about somewhere between 10, 15. I haven't actually timed it. The longest is probably cleaning all the milk bars. In the morning, I got hot water on a garden hose, and that's what I use to rinse all my milk bars down with. And then in the evening, I've got an acid solution, a disinfect, and a just soap and water. And once a week, I'll hit it with that disinfect in the evening, and the same thing with the acid and soap. The soap I do every day, but the acid I only do, like, say, Saturday, and then Tuesday I might do the disinfect. And that probably takes the most amount of time is cleaning the milk bars. But, that's right. I mean, all together from start to finish, I could probably about an hour.
So tomorrow morning at 4:00, or you're going to get up at 4. Tell us your protocol. What do you do when you get in the barn?
First thing I do is I start putting water in my tank, because what I do is I got a hose that's the length of the barn that I go around. That's what I use to fill it. But what I do is after every feeding is I put disinfect in that hose and I'll let it sit. So the first thing I do when I get in there is I start flushing that tank and that hose out. And then I flush it out about twice. I put about 10 gallons in, flush it, 10 gallons, flush it. And once I get it to fill, I normally go just walk through the barn, just check on them, make sure there's not any of them down on me or anything like that. And then from there, I start feeding. I start putting in my milk, about 75 gallons. I'm putting in four 50-pound bags of milk replacer, and then I'll start agitating that. And then, feed them and rinse out the bars and get cleaned up, ready for work.
So what time you walk in the barn? You get up at 4. What time do you walk in the barn? What time do you walk out of the barn?
If I wake up at 4, normally about 4:20, I'm walking in, maybe a little before, and then normally about 5:25, 5:30, I'm walking out of the barn.
I got you. Okay.
But when them calves first come in, it took us 2 hours to feed.
That was this group. My first group was nothing like this first one. This first one started off hard, trying to get them used to that. I mean, it just seemed like it took forever. What I actually ended up doing, because it took like 3 days of us doing it for 2 hours trying to get them on this bar. What I ended up doing was a feeding of electrolytes with no milk. And that next morning when we fed them milk again, it was like someone just switched on a light switch in their head. And I mean, they went right to the bar. And knowing that now, I think I would have done that a lot sooner. My first group, it seemed like they were all pellets, but they didn't take as long as it took for this second group that I got now to get on to the milk bar and figure it out. So, I mean, I don't think every group will be like this one. I just think that was just the deck of cards that I got played on this second group.
Gotcha. Okay, Michael, I guess we better move on. Hey,
Yeah,
I really appreciate this. This gives guys, something to think about. And even if they're in their own operation, I'm sure they're talking to other young guys that are talking about this. This cattle thing is on fire, in the area that we work as a company. So this has been very helpful. Very helpful. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Jim, real quick, before you move on.
Yeah.
Well, we still got chat on. I saw a couple people unmuting themselves. I don't know if anyone has questions from the listeners.
That's fine,
if anyone
Russ.
has any questions before you hop off.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
If not, we can move on. And also, Jim, I saw Marty, I think, pop on earlier, so he might be available whenever you want to call on him. But
okay, yeah. We'll probably go ahead and talk to Phil and then see if Lenny wants to come on. If not, we'll get Marty on before the call's over, because I want him to talk a little bit about this frost thing. So
yeah. Hopefully, Phil.
So go ahead, Michael. You if you want to head to Phil, that's where we all need to head.
Okay, yeah, sure. Phil, you on there?
Yes.
It's the floor's all yours.
Well, I'm glad everybody's on the phone tonight, and you saved the best to last. That's nice. I met these people. The owner's name is Joel Burns, his wife Maria. I run into them. They have a produce wagon, sweet corn wagon they put out, and I just went in and started chit-chatting with them. And I buy their stuff at their little market there, and we kept talking, and I left my card, left information. Finally, one day, I saw him at the convenience store getting his coffee ready for his, trip to the wagon out in the parking lot. And we got talking, and I said, well, I'll come over and visit with you. He said, okay. So what I did with this guy is I took Growers' that resource library book that we have, and Joel's a fantastic reader. I said, here, read this. Came back 10 days later. I said, what'd you think? He says, I didn't know we can grow crops like that. I said, well, I'll help you if you're interested, but you got to do what I tell you to do. And if you don't do that, then I don't want to hear the complaining. He says, all right. So there we got started. So what first thing we did? Well, it's calcium. Calcium, calcium, calcium. I said, Joel, you're going to put 3 tons of lime on that little acres you got there from now until I say, whoa. He says, I can do that. Of course, that small enough acres, just 1 truckload. So it's not a big, it's financially acceptable. It's not a lot of money. So that's how he got started with that. And this is all his crops that's outside the greenhouse. And we'll get in the greenhouse here in a minute. So his strawberries, now he plants these strawberries in the fall. It's just one season. He winters them over and harvests them, and then he pulls them all out and he plants his melons, I think, after that. I can't really remember. I'm not there every day. So anyway, what he does with strawberries, the most important thing about strawberries and the calcium and everything, of course, he puts them in on plastic and they're covered all winter. But the main thing he does, once they get greening up and everything, he hits them with growers. Now, how much he uses, don't know. That's his recipe. I don't ask him for the information, but I'm sure he follows a little green book around, pretty close to that, maybe more. But I've impressed upon Joel that the best thing he needs to do in strawberries, like any perennial, is the fall feeding before they go into complete dormancy. And I keep telling him, I come over this spring, I want to see those little white blossoms better look like baby's breath flowers, full of blossoms. And he says, well, they're pretty full. Well, every time I go over there, I never get to see them pretty full, but I'm going to try this year. But he's very, very happy with them. And what I mean by happy, well, they taste like strawberries. They smell like strawberries. He sells them two pounds to a quart, and he gets $7.50 a pound for that. And he's out of strawberries in 3 weeks. Gone. There's not a berry left. This man is just super excited about growing strawberries. Of course, he grows other products too. So the most important part of any vegetable business is calcium. And hey, Jim, are you still there? Hold on.
Yeah, sure am.
Did you get my?
Yep.
Yep. All right.
Yep.
So
sure did.
And we'll get into that maybe later if you want. Anyway, so that's what he does. There's nothing really difficult about growing the vegetables with growers. Now he uses. I make RO water and I sell him the RO water. However, he's currently getting all the gutters put on his building because I guess that $35 or $50 he pays for water is costing too much money. But anyway, he's slowly getting the gutter system put on so he can catch the rainwater. But he really likes using the RO water, and we keep it below 50. Most time it's zero dissolved solids, and he has a fantastic job doing that. And he uses that on everything out there: sweet corn, garlic, onions. Whatever he grows, he's out there foliar feeding it with growers and RO water. Now, how much, I don't know. I'm sure he buys 121 minimum order, and he has a hay field, which we could talk about that too. But anyway, he's just used growers and RO water, and it works. It works very well for him. Now, the way he foliar feeds this, he's found a air blast sprayer that you carry, a knapsack type thing. And he can walk down there and mix up that thing, and he just runs, I guess, walks. He's a tall lad, but he goes down there and he can foliar feed all his acres and stuff like one morning, get it all done. He's not out of breath, but he would. I said, you need some kind of a sprayer, but we're working on that. And that's about all of it is. I mean, he takes care of them. He watches them. Now, this frost thing's interesting because I just visited with him today. I had to take some stuff to him and get some more things lined up for him. I said, well, how does cold weather hit you? And we got some 28 degree, 26 degree stuff in that area. And I said, did you cover them back up? He says, no, they just had a little blossom starting. And he just said, no, I didn't. And, he says, they didn't get hurt that bad. Well, there you go. Growers puts, all that sugar into that system like that, and it's just harder to freeze it. So he's running a little late from last year compared to last year, but the berries, we're going to get some warm weather, and they're going to start popping, and he's going to start foliar feed. Now, he foliar feeds these things 7 to 10 days apart. Every 7 to 10 days, he's out there blowing growers on all the way up to the berries get on there, and he probably goes, with the berries also, or when they're on. So he's got his own program. I don't try to advise him how to do it as far as the growers. I just keep asking him about how things are. He says, well, things are pretty good. And I said, were you working hard? He said, we're forever picking berries. I said, oh, darn growers makes you do all that work. Well, here's the deal. I have found strawberries out there. Of course, refractometers work in different heats, and there's different criteria and all this, but I have found berries at 14 brick sugar out there in his little patch. Wow. And I found him at about 8. So he's running probably a good 9 or 10 all day long. And the interesting thing of it is Anita, my sweetheart, she's got Facebook and she promotes Joel like it's no tomorrow. And he's got more and more customers coming in just through Facebook. Of course, they're not on Facebook. they're Amish. They don't have anything, just the phone maybe out in the middle of nowhere. They're horse and buggy and everything. So he does a pretty good job with that. And that's the berry end of it. So the other stuff he has, he's got these 2 greenhouses he grows tomatoes in, and in the summertime. But prior to when he gets the tomatoes out, he puts spinach in out there and kale and some other lettuces and stuff that are cool crops. And he doesn't heat that or anything in wintertime, and he sells this spinach to a Dorothy Lane Market in Dayton, Ohio, which is in Oakwood, which is the most elite grocery stores ever. He went down there with a bag or box of spinach, and he talked to the produce manager, a young lady, and she knows her produce. And she asked him, well, how much can you supply? He says, this much. And she says, what do you want for it? And he gave her a number. She says, done. There's no bickering. Now, I've been down to all 3 of those stores in Dayton when he's selling down there, and I've yet to see a bag of that stuff in there anywhere in the produce. I haven't asked anybody where it's at yet. But my thinking of it is either everybody likes it and it's gone quickly, which might be the case, or the produce manager knows how good it is they're giving it to the restaurants, because Dorothy Lane Market supply the restaurants. Now, this year, Dorothy Lane Market came up to him and said, hey, we'd like to get in your tomatoes now. Here we go. It's just nonstop. And it's just so exciting to see this guy move forward like this with, we've had bumps in the road here and there, but for mostly it's a success story. So what we're doing in the tomatoes this year, I had a whole bunch of plastic left over from my grapes, and I just said, Joel, why don't you put the tomatoes on the plastic? That way we don't have to be bent over weeding all afternoon. He says, well, that's a pretty good idea. So now we got plastic, and now he's got to have a moisture meter so he doesn't cause any fungus problems. He's got it dialed in. So that's going that way. So in the greenhouse, what he does in the greenhouse is he has these like 8 rows. It's all on dirt. And when he first got started, I went and got him a 90 bag pallet of Pickaway lime. And he puts a bag or 2 of lime in each one of those rows, shakes them on there. He didn't care how much. He just dumped her on there, and he takes this humus stuff. And I don't know what all in this humus, but it's a pretty good product. He's been using it for a while. And he just rakes it in there, he digs it in somehow or another. It's not mechanical. It's all hand done. And then he plants everything in there, and it's just beautiful soil. And he just grows just the amount of vegetables comes out of the greenhouse is just phenomenal. It's just unbelievable. And now this cold snap, he had the tomatoes in the greenhouse, and daggone, they're 2 foot tall already. I mean, just now. And he had to put some NIPCO heaters out there and set the temperature so they wouldn't get too cold, but they were kind of looking dorky until we got a little warm weather and got the moisture. Now, there wasn't any rainwater, for say, getting in there through the hoops or through the plastic, but there was water getting in through groundwater, and he had a little bit too much water, and that's why we cautioned him about this plastic. He's got a moisture tester, and I'm going to get a couple of cheapies from Walmart just so we know he's going to feel the soil, make sure it's what he wants. But we're figuring instead of running water 9 hours a day, he's going to run it 6 or 5, which is going to cut back on his costs again. So this is tricky here to get we don't want to flood the tomatoes out because they can get sick, and then we have all sorts of problems. And so that's kind of all that works. I mean, he's just a success story. And then the hay crop. Go ahead.
Well, one thing I was going to comment on, you brought that spinach down there to the farm machinery show, and that stuff is just got the texture like a tobacco leaf, but it is so tender that it's like it's already been cooked when you bite into it. It is amazing stuff. It's pretty good. It's pretty good spinach, and I'm not a spinach eater, but that stuff is good, I'll have to say.
Hey,
so
Phil.
Phil, go ahead. Go ahead.
The question I've got is, out in the field, what's his liming protocol? Is he, rotating every so many years, or is he putting some calcium on every year, everywhere? What's his approach with the high cal?
Okay, good question. He puts 3 tons of lime to every acre out there every year until I tell him to stop. And I haven't told him to stop. His sweet corn is corn after corn, and then he will mix some the green beans. Phenomenal green beans. He'll pick those things. You can put them on the counter, and a week later, they're still crisp. Unbelievable. Phenomenal green beans. I just can't wait for green beans to come on because they're delicious. Now, he'll move that through that acreage and stuff. It takes some time, but a lot of the corn is corn after corn. Now, what he does in the corn, of course, it's growers and water on the seed because we got the kit and everything on there. And then he starts foliar feeding. And again, it'd be nice if he could get a piece of equipment, but he walks it all on and everything. And he's been using some 28 and from the co-op. And the co-op had him at 125 pounds, and I about dropped that's too much. So I bought an old applicator, which I've had for years, and I bought it off the guy finally, and I got it set up. I got it right at 90 pounds. I'm not going to fool with it now. It's not. So we got it at 90 pounds. Well, now here's what's happening. And also he got into some chicken litter, and I said, well, if you're going to use chicken litter, you may have to use more lime, so be careful because the chicken litter causes that ammonia problem, and it might hurt things. So he got low on sweet corn one year, last year. So the Brown family down here, Brown's Nursery, Mike Brown, known him for years. He's been selling vegetables, and so Joel will go down there and get the same corn, same variety off of Mike. And of course, I show up and, hey, Mike, hey, Phil, you know how that goes. And I just got off the old trusty refractometer. I just want to see how good a job Mike was doing. And he says, what's it reading, Phil? I said, well, it's 24 bricks sugar. That's not too bad, Mike. He said, I think that's damn good. Well, you're right, it is, but Joel's is 28% sugar, so you're not doing a good job here. And Joel, I'm telling you, he sells 100 dozen ears of sweet corn a day, 6 days in a row with sweet corn season. It's $7.58 a dozen, nonstop. Now, he's there at 4 o'clock in the morning pulling ears. I get that in rain, snow, or sleet, but still nonstop. It's just never stops. He moves a lot of product. Now, he grows his melons, but they come on late because he doesn't have the room for them. And I'll get back to the hayfield in a minute. But anyway, the melons, he grows his own melons. Well, when he gets the melons from a guy in Indiana, and my goal is hopefully this year I'll have the time to go over and visit that guy. And here we go. We're going to take one of Joel's melons or 2 of them and take 2 of that guy's melons and let's taste them, let the crew taste them, and then leave the other 2 set, and I'll see them in 2 weeks. I want to know which one dissolved the first, the fastest, and the quickest, and then I'll set him up because I don't know how many acres he's got, but he sells a lot of melons. He's a couple hours away or an hour away, one way or the other. And that's my goal. So now we can have growers' melons going through Joel and Joel's melons, but I won't buy an Indiana melon because when Joel's melons are ready, there's a whole different flavor, whole different program on the melon. Same seed, same melon, just grown in a different position or different way. Now, back at the hayfield, the same way with the hay is just like I told Joel, we got to get that growers on in the fall of the year because, it's a perennial. So this last year, and I didn't have the photographs, and I didn't think about it. I was just scared to death. This hay is not a cheap thing to put out. It's very expensive, and, you're dropping a lot of money per acre. And we had a good start to it, and then all of a sudden August came, everything started getting brown on some of these, we call them up the clay knolls. I said, oh, man, what's going on here? And I called Mike up. I said, what do you think, Mike? He says, well, Dad said just use half rate. I said, well, all right. I hate to go out there and spray it when there's nothing out there. So I went out, and I remember Joe Henry said, if there's anything green on that plant, it's still alive. Get some material on it. So I went out, and sure enough, I can find little specks of green on the plants. Well, it's still alive. And, of course, it'll absorb through the vine and everything, too. So I went out there with a gallon of the acre, sprayed it on there. Now, I do is spraying for him because I got the equipment that's right there. It's handy. He doesn't need to come over and bother with it. I want something to do anyway. So then we had a little rain, like a quarter inch or less, and all of a sudden that brown spot got smaller, and I wish I had the photograph, then smaller, and then it got all green. And then I went out there right before it went dormant. I went out there and I put 4 gallons a acre going into dormancy. Now, this is the first full year of that hayfield. And I've already put the 2 gallon a acre on this spring for him already when it's nice out. And it's just coming like gangbusters. He's going to have a great crop out of that. We didn't take the 4th cutting because I didn't want to push that crop that hard on its first year. Now he can do whatever he wants this following year. So it's the growers and the RO water is the ticket, I'm telling you, or the right water, I should say. So this guy's a pretty good success story.
Phil, how much calcium has he got on that hay now, would you say? How much lime?
Well, that's a great question. I hope everybody's sitting down on this because that hayfield was going to be 5 acres of grapes. Now, grapes takes 30 ton a acre calcium, so that's got 30 ton rated calcium on that field.
Okay, very
That's
good.
before we even planted it. So that's 30 ton. You cannot grow alfalfa without calcium. It's that simple. It'll never happen.
Yep.
That's just what my observation is. And down in the dark ground down there, I sent some photographs. I think Carl, somebody's got them. But that hay down there, it's just phenomenal. It's just so, and people drive by it all day long, and it's just pure alfalfa. And I go, how do you keep that? How do you get that alfalfa go? Well, it's not hard to do. You just need lime. And I've got a couple guys that grow hay, and they want to maybe get going on this program. I'm working with them, and it's just hard for them to pull that trigger because everything you talk about with the hay and stuff, with growers, it's so different that they just, wait a minute, well, just keep driving by and keep looking. I don't care. You'll either come around or you won't. So anyway, now Joel has come up with a new program on sweet corn, getting back to sweet corn. He wants to grow sweet corn clear into September because that's when he figures people want to can it. And he must have hit on something because now he's selling the same 100 dozen, but a little bit less money, but he's still moving product. But he's 8 or 9 miles to the west from his house, and his horse and buggy and tractor. And I said, oh, my gosh, you're just killing me here, Joel. I said, look, I got the same 4 acres right where your hayfield is. You're interested? And he said, sure. So now I'm growing sweet corn for him now on my property. And that field has not had all the lime on it, but he's got a 3-ton rate to start with. He'll keep putting 3-ton rate on until I say, whoa. And he's going to have great sweet corn. It's just a matter of, coming out and getting it done. So, it's a great success story. And, I just tell Joel, I said, well, you know what? Nobody comes around and asks me what you're doing. And I go to farmers markets where he's at because I know I want to buy the stuff from him because I'm not doing a garden anymore. And I go around, I check some of these other producers out, and they got junk. I mean, it's just, you get $8 for that sweet corn. Look at this thing. Well, that guy over there is $7.50. Look at it. Here we go. And they're not interested. They say, oh, you don't know what you're talking. You know how it goes. You hear the story all your life about growers and everything. And speaking about growers in their future, go ahead.
Yeah. The other question, Phil, is what kind of dirt does he have? I mean, this isn't a sandbar. I mean, he's got clay dirt. No, he's working with it. He's put this 3-ton on.
Yes, it's a Crosby and Brooks and Crosby silt loam mix of all that stuff. Some's dark, some lighter. At my place, I got Brooks and down in the deep end and up on the hill. It's I call it the white cement, which is your silt loam. Yeah, there's not much sand at all involved in any of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's done a fantastic job, and I bend over triple backwards if I could to help him because he needs to get this thing up and running. And the whole goal is this thing. We've had this Fulton fruit farm over in Troy for years. The Fulton farm, strawberries. Bill Fulton, Mr. Strawberry. Well, when you talk to his boy, I said, "I'll just give me an acre. I'll show you how to grow strawberries. It won't cost you a nickel." And he said, "No, we're not interested." So that just shows you what. The resistance you have with all this, but Jim, if you have time tonight or somebody soon, but there's a lot of deficiencies in soil, and calcium is the worst one. Everything in this world you can't have calcium without proper nutrition. It's just that simple.
Right.
And there's research that I sent to Jim Hallbuys that says this, and it's a very interesting article. Now I'm trying to remember how I got that article, Jim, and I think I was some meeting with Wilbur that those two articles showed up. Yeah. And I hid it away. I said, this will come in handy down the road someplace. And I found them. So Jim's got this information. He'll fill you all in on that whenever he wants to. It's in the Library of Congress. It's there. You can pull it up and read it. But it's very, very intriguing and interesting. And that's something that growers can use. And if I was in growers' shoes, I'd be talking to somebody like Kennedy. And you want to get nutrition back into people's lives and stuff and get them thin and this, that, and the other. You got to get the soils corrected. And wouldn't that be a hoot? Hallbuys and the Senate committee having an argument with them. I'd pay money to see that. Yes, I would.
Yeah. We would too. We would too. Hey, Phil. hey, Phil. Great job. I got to cut you off. I got to turn it back to Mike and see if Lenny's on. Thanks a lot, Phil. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Yeah, I don't know. Leonard, you out there? You want to say a few things? I talked to him earlier tonight. I wasn't sure that he was going to be on tonight, but
yeah. Well, if Lenny's not on, I've got another guy that works with Mike. Hey, Bruce Stevens, I see you're out there. Unmute yourself, and I want you to talk a little bit about this chlorine dioxide thing, and just kind of give guys a little discussion about that if you can. And it doesn't have to be anything in depth. It's a product that Bruce and Matt Gooding been kind of screwing around with. Daniel Weaver has been messing with the chlorine product for quite a while, and see, this fungicide thing is getting way out of control. The expense of it, it's always been a toxic thing. And this Safrax thing, or this chlorine dioxide, is kind of something that may replace it. Again, it doesn't have any residual value. And see, this is where Matt and Bruce are thinking that maybe tagging it to the phosphate in growers, we can get a little residual activity out of it. So, Bruce, just give us a quick synopsis on this thing. And we're not promoting it. We're just tinkering with it. And Bruce has got a couple customers that have messed with it. And they're looking at a different one now, which is really a whole different story. But Bruce, just talk a little bit about the chlorine dioxide for these guys.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, man.
Okay. I've got a couple good-sized processed tomato field growers. Between the two of them, they probably got about 700 acres total. And this was brought to my attention about, 2.5, 3 years ago, about the bacterial disease. You got to realize some of these guys have had produce and sugar beets and just fungicides and insecticides just to the point where we're getting to the point where we have no control. And I brought this up last year before Christmas. We had to talk about. We're just frustrated with this. And I had heard it from you, Jim, over a couple of years ago about this chlorine dioxide. And Matt Gooding helped me on this, getting it to the forefront. So I spent about 2 months after Christmas just studying this stuff. And Matt's got some good results with it on a smaller basis. But we're going to try full bore this year on tomatoes. But what was used last year was late in the season. One of my customers spread it on about 20 acres late in September. So you know where the disease was long past the stage of getting it on in time to control the bacterial disease they have. And it just wiped it out. And so we're kind of excited about that, trying to get growers in with this. We're hoping that it stabilizes the chlorine dioxide. One thing you got to say about this chlorine dioxide is it only lasts about 2 hours. The best time to spray is late evening or even at night because sunlight breaks down, which is a safety thing as far as residual. But when it does break down, it just breaks down into a harmless salt. And it's just about death on anything, disease. It doesn't even work some on insects also, but, to what extent. The growers that I'm working with this year, I've emphasized that, it's just as much their trial as it is ours. And Matt's working a lot of the Amish in Michigan and information I got from him, and they're just, it's inexpensive, but we got to understand too, we're fighting with big ag on the chemical side of this. And so we're going with it kind of cautious, but we've got a lot of work to do. And we're working with this company, High-Brix company, to make this in a pellet or a tablet, you put in water. And right now we're working with a company out of Dublin, Ohio, that makes a pure product. Why we're looking at this new product, chlorine dioxide, because of the TDS.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce, we're losing you. So I don't know, your connection is kind of faltering on us, but I just want to summarize that a little bit. Appreciate it, Bruce.
Yeah.
The idea is it's a lot cheaper approach than the fungicide approach. And see, I was at a meeting with Poet here last week. And again, this vamicillin thing here in the Eastern Corn Belt has given these guys tremendous problems. And they're basically telling their customers, guys want to spray for, the tar spot and the vamicillin and do it with one product. And Poet is telling them their pathologists are saying that ain't going to work. You got to do one or the other. And actually, the fungicide for the tar spot is going to make the vamicillin worse. So we're looking at this as having some possibility. We don't know that for a fact. Matt and Bruce will be messing around with it. So we'll have some information that we can discuss here in the future. But the cost of this fungicide is just, several guys at meetings just told me, man, we gotta get this thing under control. $6 corn is one thing, but we get the $4 corn. This has become a real issue. So we're getting towards the end. Mike, I'd like you to just come back on and talk a little bit about you and Chad and how you're farming out in the field and what your approach is with using growers and high calcium lime.
Well, I just wanted to comment too. I'm hearing different reports around the country how dry everything is, and right now, right here in our part of Ohio, we're not experiencing that. It's kind of wet on the wet side here and extremely cold this year. So we haven't experienced spring quite yet. It hasn't been snowing here or nothing. It's been snowing, but not really sticking to the ground. But it's kind of an unusual start to spring. Usually by this time in April, it's warmed up pretty good. And, guys are pretty anxious and get ready to start planting. But that seems like we're in the beginning of March here, actually. But like you said, I'm myself third generation at this, and we all started the same way with the lime. My grandpa limed, and actually my grandpa limed before he really got acquainted with growers. And the difference when we did get acquainted with growers is the amount of lime. I mean, we do put quite a bit more on and have over the years. So what we do typically anymore with the ground we farm, with the exception of 2 farms that we farm, they're not limed to the capacity that some of the acres that we've had through the generations here. I know the farm that I'm on here currently, the home place that my dad bought in 61, I couldn't tell you how many tons of lime's been spread on this farm, quite a bit. Of a minimum, usually we put on like maybe 4, but just about any time we do lime, we try to get on at least 10 ton. And we do that because we got a good cheap source in this area, which is a water treatment lime not far from here that we can get. And that is a convenient source of lime for us because we can put on the bigger numbers, and it seems to do a really good job. And then, so what we do here, I mean, since I've been farming, other than that one farm, I have tested that and kind of looked at the calcium levels. We like to see an 85% base saturation on a test. And if it gets a bit more than that, it doesn't concern me as far as stopping. With our maintenance program is basically what we're doing. Just about every 10 to 15 years, we'll try to get some lime on somewhere, unless we have some problems with the field. Maybe we might think it needs some lime, but then we always start with the growers with corn, beans, and now I do it with wheat. So we like to get it in the row, being that it's liquid. A lot of people think liquid don't work, but I think my opinion is it's liquid and you just got to get it on out there. And everybody always asks me if it's important to get it on when you plant. And I feel that it is for a number of reasons. The germination and the starting. with being a stress time of the crop's life is one reason. The other thing is, if it calls for, let's say you got a crop that calls for 6 gallon, if you get 2 on when you plant, you know, there you got 2 out of the way. And everything in farming is tied to timing and getting things done. So I like to be set up to go in the row. With corn, I put 6 gallon on in furrow. Soybeans, I do 2, and wheat, I do 3. And really, I'm putting on about 3.5 the way I'm set up on my drill. So, and I do like that. I really like the way the wheat looks with it in furrow. And then with corn, I'm using just roughly around 100 pounds of N as our total nitrogen application, 28%. And then beans, I foliar, always 2 gallon. We use the NA product on every crop we raise. And I even did it with hay here 2 years ago. I'm not as hell bent on the NA with hay as I am with any crop producing a seed. But yeah, that's basically what we do. And then we got hay and pasture for cows. We like to hit the pastures early in the spring. Like now, we did have one warm day that I could get on the pastures, and I've foliared all my pastures with 2 gallon an acre. And then the hay I've not yet sprayed. I like to spray it in the spring, and then a week after every cutting, I like to get 2 gallon on, and then usually I put some on in the fall. The company doesn't really recommend going. I mean, they recommend 6 gallon an acre. I probably use 8 on my hay, but the story behind that is I'm feeding cattle with it, and I don't feed any grain to my brood cows. I just feed the hay, and I feel I'm still getting my money back out of it that way.
Sure. Okay. Hey, Mike, I appreciate it. We're going to run over here, but Marty Whitsitt, I see you're on. I'm gonna rob some of your time, Mike, and I'm gonna let Marty talk a little bit about this frost thing. He had a nice long conversation with Seiler, and Seiler's always throwing this stuff out there that I think a lot of guys would be interested in. So, Marty, if you can get on and just chat a little bit about this frost protection thing, and kind of what Jim was saying as far as what he was getting for low temperatures and that, and then what kind of damage he might be having. It's going to run us over, guys. If you got to get your beauty sleep, we won't be offended. But a lot of guys have shown a lot of interest in this, so I'd like Marty to get a shot at it. So, Marty, just chat a little bit about what we were chatting about earlier this evening.
Mr. Seiler was saying that he was at 27 degrees Monday night. The biggest issue we had coming into this cold spell was all the water. I mean, it rained on Wednesday. We skipped Thursday. It rained again Friday, all day Saturday, all through the night.
Whoop, hey, we're losing you there, Parker.
Another couple gallons.
There you are.
I'm driving down the road, so I might be in and out.
Yeah.
So he got a couple gallon on Monday before the cold spell came in. But he went to 27. He said some of his early varieties, the cling peaches, he's got some damage, but he hasn't really got a handle on how much. Some of his young trees have some damage, which he said those are the most vulnerable. Older trees are more robust and will handle better. But he said as far as his main crop, his main producers, he's basically 100%. Can hardly find any bad buds at all. But he's still trying to assess exactly how much damage he's had. And he's not upset at all. Let's put it that way. But I asked him, or the discussion with him was if all this water was a factor, or what we could have done different to prevent any of that damage. And he kind of agreed that you got that much water, you're diluting all of that mineral content. It's he doesn't know if a 5-gallon application would have done the job or not.
Hey Marty, do you have any idea?
Somebody else got it. There ain't going to be any.
Yeah, do you have any idea how much growers he had on before he put this last application on?
He said 3-gallon, and then he put 2 more.
Okay, gotcha.
So a good handle on exactly how much damage he's got. I don't know that yet. But,
you will eventually know. You'll have an idea when he gets the setting peaches on there. He'll have right.
Yeah, he said all he needs is a couple warm days, and he'll be able to tell me for sure.
Okay.
He's seeing a few of them that's got some dark color on the interior, but it doesn't look like it's black. So he's trying to assess exactly what that means. So a couple days, he said he should know.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Hey, Marty, I appreciate it very much. We kind of run over here, little guys, but I thought that that's very good information. And as Marty, kibitzes with Seiler, and then as he gets into harvest and all that, we'll have a real good idea on that, guys. So we can kind of get some of that information out there. We might even do a short article, put that in there so that you guys can get a look at it. So, Russ, I'll turn it back to you. This will be the last one till probably September, depending on when we decide to start up again.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for everyone who jumped on tonight. As Jim mentioned, we did a long discussion with Marty a couple weeks ago on the podcast. So if you haven't listened to that, go check that out. You can find that on YouTube or Spotify or anywhere like that. And some other videos we've done with Jim talking about frost protection. So we've got a podcast with Mike, who is also on tonight, coming out next Monday. So stay tuned for that. Until then, we'll talk to you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Growers Mineral Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Growers Mineral for updates. To submit questions for the show, email contact us at growersmineral.com.